So I matched with this girl on Tinder last spring, and to this day I genuinely have no idea who I was actually dealing with that night. Her name on the app was Claire. She looked completely normal in her pictures, nothing crazy, nothing over-edited. Just a cute girl who worked in marketing and liked hiking. We talked for about a week and honestly the conversation was easy. She seemed down to earth, no weird messages, no red flags. She actually said she wanted to take things slow because she'd been burned before and wasn't in a rush. That made me trust her more than anything else, honestly. After about a week we agreed to meet for dinner on a Wednesday. She picked the restaurant, a little nicer than my usual, but nothing crazy. I got there, parked, texted her I'd arrived. She didn't answer. I waited near the entrance. 10 minutes went by. Then 20. I messaged again saying I was inside by the hostess stand. I'm not going to lie, I was starting to feel like an idiot. It really looked like I was getting stood up. The hostess asked if I wanted a table and I said I was waiting for someone. She checked and said nobody named Claire had checked in. I was literally about to leave when this guy walked straight up to me. He was maybe mid-40s, heavy-set, wearing a dark hoodie. Nothing about him stood out, the kind of person you'd walk past 100 times. He asked me by name. Not a guess, not a general hey, he said my actual name. That caught me off guard and I confirmed it before I even thought about it. He said he was Claire's brother. Said Claire wasn't feeling well but she still wanted to meet me. She'd sent him to come pick me up and bring me to their place, it was just a few blocks away and she didn't want to cancel on me. I asked why she hadn't just texted me that. Her phone died, he said. She didn't want to bail. The explanation was calm. His tone was completely normal. And honestly that was the part that felt the most off. He wasn't nervous, wasn't weird about it, just completely relaxed, like this was a totally normal thing to do. I stood there trying to figure out if I was being paranoid. Part of me felt like a jerk for even questioning it. But something in my gut was telling me this was wrong. I asked him for the address. He said it would be easier if he just showed me. That's when I knew. I told him I'd rather reschedule and I started walking toward the door. He stepped in front of me, not like he was going to fight me or anything, just enough to block my path. He said Claire would be really upset. He said she specifically asked him to bring me. He said she was really looking forward to tonight. I told him I'd text her later. I walked around him and left. I got to my car and locked the doors immediately. As I pulled out of the parking space I looked back and he was just standing outside the restaurant watching me leave. Not on his phone, not walking away, just standing there watching me go. I drove home thinking okay, that was weird, probably some kind of misunderstanding, maybe I'll never know what that was. I put my phone down and tried to forget about it. At 11 p.m. my Tinder buzzed. It was a message from Claire's profile. Why didn't you come? I stared at that for a second. I replied that her brother had come to the restaurant and told me she was sick. She answered immediately. I don't have a brother. I just sat there. I wrote back and told her everything, the guy, the hoodie, the offer to drive me somewhere, all of it. She stopped responding. I waited for a while and nothing came back. I couldn't sleep. Around 1 a.m. my phone started going crazy with security alerts. Someone trying to get into my email. Then my bank app. Then my Instagram. All within a few minutes of each other. I changed everything and turned on every security setting I could find. I didn't connect it to Claire right away, I don't know why, I just didn't. The next morning I checked Tinder and her profile was just gone. Completely deleted. Like it never existed. Around noon I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. You should have come with me. I showed it to my roommate and he told me to block it and report it. I blocked it. More numbers kept texting me from different area codes, all short and vague, we saw you. Next time don't waste my time. You made it harder for yourself. Then one of them used my full legal name. Not the name I used on the app. My actual full name. I didn't reply to any of them. That night I was home alone and someone knocked on my apartment door. I was on the couch and I couldn't move. I sat there. A minute of silence and then a second knock, harder this time. I went to the peephole and the hallway was empty. I stepped back and waited. A few seconds later I heard heavy footsteps going down the stairs. The next day I called the restaurant. I asked if anyone matching that description had been there that night. They said no reservation, nothing. Then I asked if any of the staff had noticed a guy standing outside. The hostess paused and said one of their servers had mentioned a man in a dark hoodie pacing in front of the entrance for almost an hour before I got there. He never came inside. He just waited outside for almost an hour and then walked directly up to me the moment I started to leave. I filed a report. Police couldn't trace the texts. No crime technically committed, they said. About a week later, I was taking the trash out behind my building and found a folded piece of paper under the handle of the dumpster with my name on it. I opened it. Inside was a printed photograph of me standing in the restaurant lobby looking at my phone. Shot from outside through the window. Somebody had been watching me the entire time I was in there. On the back of the photo it said one word. You. I haven't been on a dating app since. I think about a lot of things from that night, but what stays with me most is that hour. The hour that guy spent outside the restaurant before I even got there. Just waiting. Patient. Already certain I was going to come. I still don't know what would have happened if I'd gotten in that car. I know how this is going to sound, okay? I know. But I need you to understand what my life looked like at the time because I think it explains some of the decisions I made. I was 24, living with 3 friends in a tiny city apartment, and I had a licensing exam coming up in a few months that felt like it was already eating me alive. That specific kind of stress, the kind that sits on your chest from the moment you wake up, it does something to your judgment. It makes bad decisions feel reasonable and good sense feel like a luxury you can't afford right now. That's why I matched with Tyler on Hinge. His profile was normal. Not stunning, not suspicious, just a normal guy with normal photos and a normal bio. We started talking and it clicked immediately. He was funny, he was calm, he knew how to have a real conversation without making it weird. He replied fast but not desperately fast, you know? He had the balance right. We started talking every day. Then every night. Before I really processed what was happening, we were something, not officially anything, but something that felt real. The first thing I noticed was that he never showed his face on calls. He called me constantly. Hours at a time. I'd lie in bed listening to his voice, and honestly it was one of the better parts of my day. But his face? Never. He said his phone had been stolen recently and the laptop he was borrowing had a broken camera. I believed him. I told myself it wasn't that weird. The second thing I noticed was worse. Every single time the conversation got anywhere near intimate, his tone changed and he started asking for explicit photos. Every time. I shut it down every time too. I was completely clear about it. I didn't hedge. I said no and I explained why. He'd back off and apologize, and then the next day he'd ask again like we hadn't just had the same argument. Over and over. Long enough that it stopped feeling like a misunderstanding and started feeling like a method. My friends saw it from the outside and they weren't subtle about what they thought. Does he not show his face at all? One of them asked one night while we were studying. Not even once? Said another. I told them about the stolen phone, the broken camera. They looked at me like I'd just announced I believed in something they'd stopped believing in a long time ago. Sophie, one of them said. If he wanted to see you, he would find a way. A 10-year-old laptop has a camera. I knew they were right. I genuinely knew. But I kept defending him. I kept telling myself that someone who called me every single day wasn't doing that for no reason. I kept believing the version of him that he'd built for me inside those calls. December came. With a mix of hope and stubbornness I still can't fully explain, I told him to come for Christmas. Meet my family. He said yes immediately, no hesitation, no excuse, no I'll try. Just yes. For the first time I let myself actually believe it. The day before he was supposed to arrive, he called me. His breathing was off. I thought he was just nervous. Then I realized he was crying. Can we talk? He said. Something went cold in me before he said another word. He took a while to get it out. The confession came in pieces. He was a catfish. The photos weren't him. He'd been using pictures taken from some random guy's Instagram account. His name wasn't Tyler. His job was fake. His background, his age, almost everything I thought I knew about him had been constructed from someone else's life and handed to me as his own. He sent me a photo of his real face. I looked at it and everything clicked in the worst possible way. The camera that was always broken. The explicit photos he kept pushing for but wouldn't show his own face. The meetups that never happened. Knowing what he actually looked like made all of it 10 times more disturbing. When I told him it was over, he didn't accept it. He said I only ever liked him because of the photos he used. He said I never cared about the real him. He cried, he yelled, he apologized, he guilt-tripped, the whole cycle compressed into about 30 minutes. And then at the end of it he asked if he could still come for Christmas. Said he'd already told his parents he wasn't coming home. Said he had nowhere to go. I blocked him on everything I could find. I had a quiet Christmas with my family. I told myself it was done. For almost a year, nothing. Life went back to normal. I passed my exam. I started posting on Instagram again, selfies, little updates, some hobby stuff I was proud of. It felt good to exist online without that weight sitting on everything. I had completely forgotten we still followed each other. One night I posted a few stories, nothing dramatic, just regular stuff, and I got a message request. I saw his name before I had time to do anything about it and felt something cold go straight up my spine. I locked my phone and put it down. The notifications kept coming. Every few hours another message. I finally opened the chat to block him. The most recent message had been sent just minutes earlier. It was a photo of the front of my house. My parents weren't home. I locked every door I could reach, ran to my room, locked that door too, and called the police. While I was on the phone trying to keep my voice steady, I heard knocking. Then pounding. His voice through the door saying my name, telling me to just open it, saying we could talk. I crouched next to my bed and stayed on the line with the dispatcher until I heard the officers outside. When I finally opened the door, one of the officers looked at me with an expression I didn't know how to read right away. He was holding a knife, he said. I had to hold onto the doorframe. I still think about the year of silence. The year when nothing happened and I stopped being careful. I think about how long he must have been watching my Instagram before he sent that first message. How patient he was. How long he waited. The officer's words come back to me at night more than I'd like. He was holding a knife. I don't know what he intended. I'm not sure that question has an answer I'd want. What I know is that the year of quiet wasn't the end of it. It was the middle. Okay, so I want to preface this by saying I'm not someone who scares easily. I played college football, I'm 6'2", I'm not the kind of person who gets rattled. I say that because what I'm about to describe rattled me. And it still does when I think about it. I'd been single for about 8 months when my buddy finally talked me into trying Hinge. I wasn't really a dating app guy, I'd used Tinder a little in my 20s and found the whole thing kind of hollow. But I was 29, out of a relationship that had run its course, and tired of waiting for something to just happen on its own. So I set up a profile and within a couple weeks I matched with someone named Kayla. Her profile looked completely real. Photos that felt candid, one at what looked like a work thing, one at a cookout, a selfie that wasn't overly done. We started talking and it clicked right away. Same taste in music, same kind of humor, easy back and forth. She felt like a real person. After about a week she said she hated checking the app and asked if she could just talk to me on Instagram instead. I gave her my handle. Minutes later a follow request came through. I looked at her account. About 2,000 followers, 3 posts, all selfies. Good engagement, lots of comments, lots of likes. I scrolled through the comments and something registered that I hadn't noticed at first. Every single account that had commented on her posts was male. Not one female commenter anywhere. I told myself that probably didn't mean anything. We made plans to meet at a bar in my neighborhood that Friday. I knew the place well, comfortable, not too loud, bartenders I recognized. I got there a little early and took a stool at the bar. I texted Kayla I was there. I went back through her profile while I waited. Tagged photos, none. I scrolled through the comments again. Still not a single woman. The more I looked, the more something felt off. I tried calling her through Instagram. One ring, straight to voicemail. I checked Hinge and her profile was gone. I sat with that for a second. And then the guy next to me spoke up. He'd sat down at the stool right beside me at some point. I hadn't even noticed him come over. Late 30s maybe, little overweight, patchy beard. He said hey, said he thought he recognized me from the bar before. I didn't recognize him at all. He introduced himself as Kevin and stuck out his hand. I shook it. I went back to my phone. He kept talking. I kept my answer short. At some point the bartender came over and greeted him like a regular, the kind of greeting you give someone you've seen 100 times. Which meant Kevin had already been in the bar when I arrived. He'd been sitting somewhere else and then come over to sit right next to me specifically. That thought was still settling in when I asked for my check. Kevin asked where I was going. I said I had to get out of there. He said I should stick around, said the bar got better later. I didn't respond. I paid. I stood up to leave. And then his hand closed around my wrists. Not like he was going to hurt me, just tight enough to stop me from walking away. People nearby noticed. I said, loud enough for them to hear, exactly what I thought about that. Kevin's expression changed. He leaned in close and dropped his voice almost to a whisper. I'm Kayla, he said. I'm sorry. Please don't go. I broke free and walked out of that bar as fast as I could without full-on running. Got to my car, locked the doors, and drove home in complete silence. I didn't turn on music. I didn't call anyone. I just needed the drive to absorb what had happened before I could do anything with it. I got home, got into my apartment, turned on the TV mostly just for the noise. About an hour later something hit my window. Hard. Single impact, deliberate. My apartment was on the ground floor. Blinds were closed, I couldn't see out. I stayed completely still. I didn't say anything. I didn't go near the window. Then my name. From outside. Said once. Then again. Then again, this low patient repetition like someone who had decided that if they just kept saying it long enough the situation would resolve itself in their favor. I did not respond. I sat in the dark and waited. After a few minutes it stopped. I didn't sleep that night. In the morning I went to the window and lifted the edge of the blind. There was a note pressed against the outside of the glass. Facing inward. Written so I could read it without opening anything or going outside. I'll be watching you. I moved out that week. I didn't tell that many people what happened, not because it wasn't serious but because something about it was hard to explain. It started on a normal app and ended with a note against my first floor window in the dark. And somewhere in between a stranger had sat down next to me at a bar, grabbed my wrist, and said a woman's name. I still don't know if Kevin made that profile by himself or if someone else was involved. I don't know how long he'd been watching before that night. I don't know if he picked me specifically or if I just happened to respond. What I know is that I gave someone my Instagram handle and that same night someone was outside my window. I'm on the second floor now.